Moana 2 hasn't exactly had the greatest reception, but is the sequel really that bad? Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, as a big fan of the first film, let me tell you the very best and worst things in the new movie. Spoilers ahead. One of my favourite things from the 2016 movie was the Kakamora, so it's great to see those teeny tiny coconutty pirates bring another boatload of Mad Max Fury Road inspired antics to the sequel. In an intriguing change from the first film, they end up joining forces with Moana and her fellow wayfinders, but not before they've shot them all with poisonous darts, which leads to a horribly amusing scene with their new animal sidekick Blobby the Blobfish, whose slimy outpourings bring Moana and her crew back to fighting fitness, and who it turns out is also the disgusting source of the Kakamora's poison darts. I especially love the way the tiny pirates communicate with their new allies via a sort of etch-a-sketch made of rows of Kakamoras moving in unison to create pictures that reveal the backstory of their lost home island. Demigod Matangi gets one of the best new songs, the fantastic jazzy villain song Get Lost, which is brilliantly performed and animated and even catchier than Tamatoa's Shiny. There's some lovely visuals in her scene with Moana, including her command over a colony of bats and the way she moves. Plus, I love her bat cape in the scene with Maui. But while her cape, song, animation and fruit bat sidekick give her classic villain vibes, she instead continues Disney's trend of misunderstood antagonists, as do the Kakamoras. So although her two very short scenes with Maui are meant to ramp up her mystery and keep us guessing as to her motives, she pretty much immediately helps Moana, which feels a bit of an anticlimax. I don't think Disney have delivered on Matangi's full potential yet, so hopefully they'll make the most of her in Moana 3. Disney saves the unrepentant, power-hungry villain role for storm god Nalo, whose full form we only see during the post-credits, in a moment with strong echoes of Thanos in the Age of Ultron end credits. Fans of the original movie, myself included, were wild about the blinged up, colossally conceited crab Tamatoa, so I was delighted to see the absolutely crabulous crustacean make a return, even if it is only in the sequel's post-credits where he wants to muscle in on Nalo's plans to get revenge on Moana. Tamatoa's shell may no longer be so shiny, but he is back on his feet, unlike the last time we saw him in the first film's Little Mermaid-inspired credits.
If my name was Sebastian and I had a cool Jamaican accent, you'd totally help me. You would, you know you would.
And during his Moana 2 cameo, there's even a fun send-up of fan favourite song Shiny when Tamatoa debuts his new, humorously ultra-lo-fi song and dance number, Funky Crab Legs. Instead of sending Moana off on her own with only a bird-brained rooster for company until she meets Maui, the sequel has our titular hero team up with a brand new wayfinding crew and a couple of familiar faces. The new team includes the boat's engineer, a Maui superfan and an elder farmer, all of whom add some fun moments to the sequel, as well as move the story along in some interesting ways. However, I do think if Moana 2 had been the TV series it was originally intended to be, that each of these characters would have been fleshed out a bit more in perhaps an episode each of their own. As for those familiar faces, Hei's back in the boat again, and this time, Moana's pet pig Pua is also along for the ride, after many fans were disappointed there wasn't more of him in the first film. The lovable pig does what he does best, look absolutely adorable while bringing some extra comedy, all while doubtless increasing Disney merch sales. While Maui and Moana are only reunited near the 60-minute mark, that isn't a big issue, as it gives her and her new crew time to establish themselves, and we get several humorous Maui scenes before their reunion. The demigod's new song, Can I Get a Chihu, is catchy, well performed and beautifully animated, but just not as memorable or lyrically clever as You're Welcome. Having said that, Moana and the villagers get an excellent opening song in We're Back, and Moana's big solo number, Beyond, is a soaring track that's movingly performed, though not as earwormy as the excellent How Far I'll Go. There aren't as many giant beasties as in the first film's underworld of Lalatai, where a range of weird and wonderful flora and fauna lived, but there's still some enjoyably inventive creatures, such as this one-eyed, very toothy, worm-like monster that hilariously blows up then deflates like a balloon when Kotu hits it with a dart. And then there's Moana's welcome gift from Nalo in the form of a ginormous bioluminescent eel-like monster that attacks their boat. Plus, there's that gigantic clam with masses of eyes that swallows up her and her shipmates. Overall, I enjoyed Moana 2. It continues and builds on lots of what worked so well first time around, including its appealing characters and cast, beautiful and textured animation, and its mix of action, comedy and heart. And a movie doesn't have to be totally unpredictable or break especially new ground to be entertaining. But the sequel isn't all smooth sailing. Now, you know I love a good Easter egg or callback, and Moana 2 has plenty of those, but at times it feels it over-relies on throwbacks to the first movie. For example, wheeling out the same chicken scream and princess jokes again, which feels like Disney is erring a bit too much on the side of caution rather than taking more of a risk. Even some moments with Moana's cute as a button sibling Simea retread scenes from the original with toddler Moana and the ocean, and the cave scenes with Moana and her grandma. And it feels a bit like when a sitcom rushes to bring in a new child actor to keep up the cute quota when the original child star inevitably grows up. Despite all that, the new little sister character is an undeniable bundle of absolute cuteness and energy.
You were gone forever.
And get some touching scenes with her big sis, and I'm sure she'll feature much more going forward in future movies and a possible Moana spin-off TV series. Indeed, many parts of the script are clearly made with an eye to setting up a Moana-verse, and if that wasn't obvious enough throughout the movie, that end credit scene pretty much assures us we're in Frozen territory here and we'll be getting at least a third film. Plus, I'd be very surprised if, on top of that, Disney didn't also make an animated Moana streaming series, which is what this sequel was originally intended to be, and that's perhaps why this movie sometimes feels a bit fuzzy on some things, cause in a TV show it'd have a longer overall runtime to fill in missing details, plus individual episodes of that wouldn't necessarily have to be all linked, and there just wouldn't be as high expectations as for a movie. Don't get me wrong, I'd definitely be happy to see more Moana. I just don't especially love feeling that so much is about setting up the future rather than the present. By the way, despite other animated franchises often shoehorning in a seemingly obligatory but often boring love interest, yes, I am looking at you, Trolls World Tour. It's nice to see the Moana sequel continue to put our hero's own journey and her community ahead of hooking up our lead. So what did you like or dislike in the new movie? And what do you think of Moana leveling up her powers? Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers! Thanks for enjoying Moana 2 with me, and I'll see you in the next video.